but don't keep it unfinished. Again, a big problem. I'm gonna ask you: don't you think music producers have a lot of problems not completing songs?
And I think that actually affects their confidence.
Yeah.
A lot of them just feel like a lack of confidence because they don't have anything to show. Like, they spend so much time making music, and then someone's like, "Where do I hear your music?" And they're like, "Oh, it's not out yet," and because they're not proud of how it sounds, and that can actually affect your psyche. And some people feel like imposters because of that. They feel like they're putting on some image, but they can't really live up to it behind the scenes. And I think a lot of us, face that to some degree in life.
Welcome to the Immerse Productions podcast, where you'll learn the fastest way to produce a song without all the BS.
So today's topic is something that I feel like people don't talk about enough in the music world. Maybe they're uncomfortable talking about it. I've probably shied away from talking about it because we've had a YouTube channel for 4 years now. We have never made a topic about this. So we're going to talk about it today. And that's going to be music production and mental health. All right. So chances are, if you're clicking on this, maybe you feel that pressure. Maybe you feel like the world is weighing down on you. You don't know what to do. No one's listening to your stuff. It feels hopeless and useless, and it can definitely feel frustrating. I think we have all felt that numerous times at different stages in our journey. So that's what we're going to talk about, and we're going to explore that. So you realize you're not alone. We all face the same thing too. So let's talk about three big problems that almost everyone faces, and we'll also talk about ways to overcome them as well. So let's start with the first one. I think everyone experiences creative blocks, times when they're just not inspired. They don't want to make music. They feel dead inside.
So creative block, I think, happens only because you do not have a good system in place. If you open up a session and you're trying to make a song and you have no idea how to start, then that can be called a creative block as well. Like, I know so many musicians, especially songwriters, come in saying, I'm not able to come up with a melody, right? Or a music producer talking about how they're not able to create something substantial. It's because you don't know the system. If you had a system in place where you're putting a kick first and maybe a snare first, and to each its own, right? Everyone has a different system. If you're not doing that, then you will have a creative block. It's okay. You just have to learn the right processes.
So what would you recommend to someone who's in that block right now and just cannot come up with any ideas? What should they do? What's the first thing they should do?
First of all, I think that creative block happens when you're trying to make music for a very long time or long hours, and then you think, why am I not able to do so? Number one thing, know when to take a break. If you're not able to produce something or come up with something, give it 2 days of rest. Go for a movie. Do whatever you want to do. Play a sport. Come back and sit down. That's number one. Make your ears fresh, your mind fresh.
I literally got goosebumps when you said that. I don't know why.
Yeah, because
that hit me. I felt that because I remember I'd sit in the studio for hours and hours and hours. The entire day is gone, and then I go outside to get groceries and I feel like a goblin because I haven't seen daylight, and I feel like an outcast society. So
this is a common problem. Music producing job is a very lonely job, and on top of that, if you don't know the process as well, if you don't know how to do it, it can get even more frustrating. But what I've noticed, if I know the right processes, of course, once you come back from your 2 days break, if you do not know how to do it, the process, it's going to be the same.
So then that's a technical block, not a creative block.
Yeah, exactly. So what I would suggest, come back for someone who's a beginner or an intermediate. If you think you keep getting that creative block, go through a system, go and learn that system first. And don't just binge watch. If you're watching some course or YouTube, even I've done that mistake. I would watch many videos about how to do certain things.
And then you get overwhelmed.
And then, yeah, I am very patient in life in general. So what I would do, I would take a video now. Even at this point, if I want to learn something, I'll take few seconds each, pause, and I'll do it on my a computer, go back, do it, go back.
So you're actually following along with the tutorial.
Yes, every word okay. I try to pay focus.
Yeah, so that's key. Definitely don't overwhelm yourself with just watching a bunch of videos and getting overwhelmed with information. Because that's only going to block you further.
Have a system in place. If you want to start with drums, always start with your drums. If you want to start with your melody on a guitar, always have that in your mind. It's habit. Music producers form a habit. The biggest music producers I've met, and I know, they have a system in place where they are able to make music even in airplanes. Right? How are they able to do it? On their computer, just by typing on the musical typing keyboard, they can make music because they have a system in place. Right?
So to recap, if you're really blocked, take a break for 1 or 2 days. And then when you come back, have some kind of system or process in place. So I personally have a system that I love to use when I feel a block. It's very easy. I'll just start looking at melody loops, whether it's on Cymatics or Splice. There's so many loops. All I have to do is just hear one that I like, and that sparks the next idea. So that's another thing. Not everything you make has to be completely original from scratch. I think a lot of people put pressure on themselves to be like, I have to make it from scratch. It has to be completely original. This has to be a hit song. It's like, no, it doesn't. Just create something. That will get you in a nice creative flow. It'll get you out of your head. So that's personally what I like to do when I'm in a block. Just start looking at loops, something that tremendously helps me. So now let's talk about things like deadlines. How can deadlines help someone become more efficient and more productive and maybe feel less overwhelmed?
Well, as a music producer, we generally don't have deadlines. That's actually a curse because you keep doing the same thing, same loop over and over again till you want to attain that perfection. But perfection is overrated in music because the only reason I say is because you need to release music constantly. One every week or one every 2 weeks. Otherwise, the algorithms are not going to push it. If you're going to look for perfection and you're doing everything on your own, like production, mixing, mastering from home studio, it's not going to be there, right? Get into that practice of releasing songs again and again. Keep those deadlines for yourself. We want to do it once a week, right? That's a big deadline for us. It's difficult, but it's possible. Will we attain 100% perfection in it? Probably not. But will we get better over time?
Though.
Yeah. Will we get better over time? Yes.
I think by having that deadline, it forces you to not have this perfectionism.
Yes.
So you can actually move forward with your life. Because if you can, you can spend the rest of your life trying to make one song perfect,
Most people go into that burnout phase because they don't have deadlines.
And that's how they burn out.
Yeah.
That's exactly how they burn out. Because they spend way too much time fixing something that no one else is ever going to notice.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, think of the grand scheme of things. It's just one song in your lifespan. Everything's a learning experience. You're just learning. You're here to learn. We're on this earth to learn. So stop overthinking it. Make it to the best of your abilities. Recognize when it's time to move on.
Being said that, it's important for you to at least get to some level so that the song sounds good.
Of course.
Learn those techniques. It's not very difficult to learn those simple production, mixing and mastering templates. The mix bus that we teach, that can do 80% of the mixing for you, right? That is a big saver. So things like those can really help you in the journey, and then you'll not have burnout.
So once you're at that 80% in quality,
yeah.
that's solid. This is a solid track. But then there's that extra 20% to be perfect, world class. I feel like that extra 20%, it's if it's just not coming,
Yeah.
move on.
Eventually
80%
it
is good
will.
enough, but move on. And those little 20% things are going to come with time and experience.
With experience, I'm realizing when I listen to the music of some of my favorite artists, they're also doing the same thing. There's some of these songs, I hear it and I'm like, this could be so much better. There could be an extra element here. But no, even they do it on the fly. Even people like Chainsmokers, they come up with a song every week. How do they do it? With that schedule? They have to compromise a little bit, even at that level. Even with engineers, they don't have time. So if they can do it, even you can do it. But that doesn't mean that you make bad songs. You cannot make a mix with a lot of mid-range and have a song with no song structure. Basic principles, have your structure in place, finish your song, do it till the best of your ability, move on to the next song. But don't keep it unfinished. Again, a big problem. I'm going to ask you, don't you think music producers have a lot of problems not completing songs?
And I think that actually affects their confidence.
Yeah.
A lot of them just feel a lack of confidence because they don't have anything to show. They spend so much time making music, and then someone's like, where do I hear your music? And they're like, oh, it's not out yet. And because they're not proud of how it sounds. And that can actually affect your psyche. And some people feel like imposters because of that. They feel like they're putting on some image, but they can't really live up to it behind the scenes. And I think a lot of us, face that to some degree in life.
I'm going to talk about exercise. Since we both try to exercise regularly, how much do you think it has impacted on your mental health being a music producer who makes music in the room?
Not only, exercise helps everything. Because when your brain is just running and overthinking, literally doing physical work that will exhaust you clears that out. It just clears it out. The blood gets flowing. The blood starts flowing to the brain. You can think better. You have more clarity. And it's a good way to take a break and just listen to other people's music. And sometimes I'll be at the gym. I'm listening to something and I'm like, oh my God, I like that song. That's going to be my next reference for the song I make. Now I have inspiration, right?
It also builds discipline. You might think, the listeners might think these DJs and music producers, they have these like crazy lives with
Doing
parties,
cocaine and
yeah,
smoking all
but
the time.
the biggest music producers I know have a very plain, simple, and a disciplined life. You'll not. Yes, they have like they're traveling all over the place, but they will exercise daily. They or thrice a week. They have a set amount of hours they produce. They eat the right food. They do their shows. They don't like party all night. They come back to their bedrooms, sleep for a couple of hours, take the next flight, produce there. It's just a system again. They have a system in place for their mental health. And some of those who actually cannot go by it, then they end up struggling. And for someone like Avicii, who succumbed, right, he left the world, I think it happened because he was not able to keep that discipline, right? He was, if you see some of his documentaries from the past, you'll see that he's producing, his food is right next to his table, right? But he's not eating, he's just doing it constantly. He would go on stage, he would be so drunk because he could not go through that anxiety. He did not want to perform. Again, good topic. If you don't want to perform as a music producer or DJ, don't do it, right? We want to perform, so we love it. But many producers don't. Avicii did not want to perform, but he was still pushed to the stage. And look what happened. We lost such a great producer, right? So things like those are also important to keep in mind.
So I want to talk about something that's greatly helped me is just not being alone in this game. I think when I look back on all the projects I've ever done musically, I used to be in a band, and then I was in a rap duo, and now I'm with this guy in another duo. And there was a short time where I was doing solo music, but then I started thinking like, okay, look, like long term, if I'm doing everything my own, the production, the mixing, the mastering, which I can do, but now I have to also do the content, I have to do the marketing, I have to, use my own budget. I'm like, that's a lot of pressure. It was weighing down, and then I realized, look, if I'm in a duo or if I'm with a group of people, we can divide all those tasks, and you just have a sense of family and community in doing that, and it just doesn't feel so alone. And then you can bounce ideas off the other person.
Yeah, I absolutely agree that you need to be in a duo or in a band to do this because it is a lonely thing, right? As long as you're not too egoistic about the product that you come up with, the artist, artists have that ego. You have to get past that. If you're making music together, there has to be a certain amount of compromise. We both come from very diverse, different music backgrounds, right? But still we're able to sit in this room and make some music. Do we agree on everything? Probably we don't agree on anything, but still we come to a compromise where things will sound good in our music. Even with our business, I have always noticed in this studio when I'm making music alone, like when he goes back to the US, I don't like to do it alone. When even the videographer who's sitting right next to the camera, if he's not come to the office, I don't want to work that day. Once I know that he's coming to office at 1 p.m. and Ari's going to be in the studio at 3 p.m., I am naturally inclined to structure my day in such a way that I'm able to produce with these guys, have some time for my family, go for my exercise, wake up on time, sleep on time, and do the same routine over and over again. That only comes because I have guys whom I'm answerable to, right? So that's key, I think.
So yeah, having other people that you're involved with is going to help hold you accountable.
Food is another thing. Music producers who drink a lot, smoke a lot, or eat just junk food, right? From my personal experience, because I did all of that in the past, I know that used to really bring me down, right? It's difficult for someone who drinks a lot or smokes a lot to bring it down, but it's possible, right? Exercise was something that I never even thought that I could do, honestly, like in a regular basis. But I've tried to get to the point where I'm doing it. These things, in the beginning, it's very hard for you to do, but as you build momentum, as you bring the discipline, it shows effect in other aspects of your life. And the number one aspect that it'll change is through your music career, because you get into the discipline.
That's right? Another thing is that momentum. So a lot of us get down on ourselves because we haven't reached the end goal yet. We haven't gotten the exact result. Yeah. But if you always measure your happiness on that, you're going to be miserable so many times. It's like, I've learned to just value making progress. If I get 1% better tomorrow, great, I'm on the right path.
Right.
I'm on the right path. So I'm rewiring my brain to be happy on those 1% improvements that are happening, even if it's slow. As long as we're going in that upward trend, through discipline, through the right systems, through the right habits, then we're on a good path. We're doing the best we can. And that's where we need to get our happiness. Not from reaching the ultimate end result. Because once you're there, you're like, oh, I'm here, now what? You know?
And in the music world, in this career, it is going to take some time to reach that level. You like it or not, this is the hard
You
reality.
have no choice but to adopt that kind of mindset.
Yeah. So, you know what we did? We created a Bible called the Laxom Bible, right? I'm going to talk about this here. And in that, we looked into a lot of artists who have made it, to just read about their careers and how they made it. And everyone had this pattern of doing things over and over again repeatedly for years and only then reaching their goals, right? No one has got though. Maybe some of them did, but everyone grew slowly. The streams went from 5 to 10 to 100 to 1000 to 10,000 to millions. It will take some time. As long as you do consistently, you run the right marketing programs for your music, you consistently make music, release it on Spotify, you do your social media game, and consistently do it for a few years. I'm talking about 5 to 6 years. Only then you'll see results. So keep this in mind. Keep disciplined, eat the right thing. Make sure you spend time with your family and friends. Find a partner, a duo, or be in a band to make music and do it consistently for a few years. And have a separate job if needed for your financial problems. There's no problem in that. You're not going to be making music 8-10 hours a day. If you're saying you're going to do that, you're just making an excuse. Get a job which pays for your rent, for your food, for a few years, right? Keep making your music and you will get there. And along the way, if you're getting depressed, anxiety, you can use meditation, you can exercise. There are a lot of things.
Go out
that
for
you
a
can
walk.
do.
You know?
Yeah, every day. Do it habit. It's not like one day you go for a walk because you're feeling sad, right? Do it every day. You'll see the difference. Trust us on this, right?
So with that being said, I think we're probably one of the few music production, educators out there that actually incorporate mental health, discipline, habits, routines, along with
Right.
all the technical stuff of producing and mixing and mastering. So we'd like to take a very holistic approach on all this because we've been through a lot of struggles ourselves. So if this resonates with you and you want to work with us, click that link in the description. Otherwise, thanks for tuning in.